Today we gather to launch the Robert Brooks Blueprint for Justice and Reform, a powerful and necessary step towards meaningful change in New York's correctional facilities and system. This blueprint is not merely a policy on paper. It represents our deep commitment to justice, rehabilitation, to safety, and most importantly, accountability. We all saw the footage in December, and as a caucus, we had to come together first to grieve, not only for Robert Brooks, but for the unnamed individuals, the many of them who are killed at the hands of state-sanctioned violence. And we all said to ourselves back in December that we are committed to change this legislative session. And I mean this legislative session. And what we do this session is merely a first step, because we know that our system is severely broken. And so justice for us means fairness. It means meaningful second chances and a pathway to redemption. We must pass essential parole and sentencing reform, ensure rehabilitation triumphs over redemption. No individual who has demonstrated genuine rehabilitation should ever be sentenced to die behind bars. And accountability can't wait. Too many families have lost their lives to a broken system, and we say their names: Robert Brooks, Messiah, Nentween. They both should be alive today. Their deaths underscore our urgent demand for truth, oversight, and systematic change. And as the legislature approaches the close of session, our calls grow louder. And I'm grateful for our leadership because they hear us. So we stand with our legislative leaders who have shown responsiveness and urge them to consider our package, because New York needs this blueprint. Our communities demand action, and we are here to deliver that. And together, we will ensure that justice is done this legislative session.
Amen.
So I am joined by many of my colleagues here today who will speak. But I first want to give space for our correctional committee chairs to speak. And so I'm going to go with the upper house first. No offense to the people's house, which is the best house. No. So first, I'm going to have Chair Salazar speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I want to first really appreciate the leadership of our caucus chair, Mikhail Solage, for prioritizing this issue, prioritizing transformation in our prisons and jails in New York State and in our criminal legal system. We all saw a video in December of Robert Lee Brooks, an incarcerated man at Marcy Correctional Facility, being tortured and ultimately killed by corrections staff. Only a couple months later, during an unauthorized work action, correction officers murdered yet another young Black incarcerated man just yards away from where Robert Brooks was killed, this time at Mid-State Correctional Facility. They murdered Messiah Nantwi. And since then, we've had a busy legislative session, but it is important to understand that no legislative action has yet been taken to address this and to make this right. Since then, we have seen officers indicted for the murder of both of these young men, and we continue to demand justice through the courts. However, we need to take legislative action to prevent this from happening to another New Yorker, to those whose names we don't even know, to those whose names we do know, that this has been happening for some time. This is why we have the Terry Cooper Autopsy Accountability Act, which is part of this legislative package, right? Terry Cooper was killed years ago, and saw the largest settlement, civil case settlement awarded to his family, that I believe we've ever seen in the Northern District, because of how egregious the harm was to Terry Cooper and to his family. There are almost 24 bills in this package. And you might see that and think that is a lot of legislation. But here's what's important to know. While we have made tremendous progress on criminal legal reform and in so many areas in the past 6.5 years since the Democrats have had the majority in the state Senate, and of course in the Assembly, and in the governor's office, despite that, we have actually not seen for years now, basically since the Halt Solitary Confinement Act became law, which I will say now opponents are trying to roll back. We have not seen meaningful reform to address the abuse that incarcerated individuals face, to transform our systemically violent and abusive correction system in New York. We have not seen sentencing reform or parole reform in this state. So it actually demands that we fight for this entire package. And this package represents justice, rehabilitation, safety, and accountability. We need all 4 of these tenets in order to actually achieve what our state needs, what New Yorkers deserve, which is to be able to trust our state government and trust that people who are tasked with protecting the health and safety of people in state custody, that they will do the right thing. That we, as legislators who are accountable to the public, will ensure that public servants are doing their jobs and not causing harm like we have seen over the past 6 months. This is about racial justice. This is about social justice. And it is about restoring New Yorkers' faith in our state government. So thank you again to our caucus chair, to my assembly counterpart, Assemblyman Eric Bilan, as the other house's corrections chair, who co-chaired a really powerful hearing with us just a few weeks ago, focused on this issue, where we heard from loved ones and family members of those who have been brutalized and killed in state prisons. The time is now for us to act. This is overdue. This is urgent. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Next, we have Chair DeLon, who has really been a voice in the Assembly of showing justice and accountability.
One among many. The caucus has been really strong, and it's been a pleasure working with you, Mickey, and the members of the caucus. The majority of the members standing behind me have a piece of legislation that we expect to be in the package, and it's truly been a collaborative effort, and I'm looking forward to doing the work. This has been, I want to say opportunity, but it's almost wrong to say that because people have lost their lives. But since Attica, there hasn't been an opportunity to create meaningful prison reform like we do now. I think we have the opportunity in this session and the next few succeeding sessions to really shape the prison system and the criminal justice system for the next 50 years. So I've been very, very careful and deliberate about what I've said, about what we've reviewed in terms of the bills that could potentially come before both houses, because I recognize the opportunity. Now, Attica was brutal, right? But Attica wasn't televised the way the death of Robert Brooks was. And I think once you see that, it's very, very, very hard to unsee that. And the folks standing behind me and the folks who have family in prison and the folks back at home in the districts all know that this has been going on for a long time, but we just never were able to actually prove it. And while that's in the process of being proved now in the legal system, I mean, we all know what our eyes saw. So the fact that we are on the cusp of getting to the work, which is what I look forward to, makes me proud. I'm proud of the effort of everybody standing behind me because everybody pitched in. Everybody pitched in with their ideas, with their emotions, with their passion, with their experiences. And a lot of those experiences that came to light opened up deep wounds for a lot of folks. And it was almost an internal emotional moment for all of us this session. So the fact that we get to move on in some way, shape, or form, I'm excited to see. There's many, excellent bills that are under consideration, and I just can't wait to get the first one on the floor, and hopefully, to the governor's desk for his signature. With that, Nick, I'll turn it back over to you and say I'm just ready to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to underscore, he said it was a collaborative effort. We all worked together to hone into this package, to pick several bills. But as we said before, this is just the beginning of us transforming the system.
Caucus is shaping most of
Yeah.
the package.
So we're going to let members speak, and we're going to go Senate, Assembly, okay? But first, I'm going to start with the Assembly. So Assemblywoman Tapia was here first, and then we'll have, I think I saw Senator Clear next.
Yes, Senator Clear is here. Good morning, everyone. This been really, really, really long months that we have since what happened to Robert Brooks. And we are all here today because we know that what happened to Robert Brooks demands more than condolences and apologies. It demands action. He was handcuffed, he was beaten, he died surrounded by state employees who didn't lift a finger to stop it. And that wasn't just violence. That was reflection of broken policy. That was the system working as it was built. That's why I am proud to have my bills A5355 and 7014 in this package, which I chair with my great friend, Senator Salazar. 5355 says, if you commit serious misconduct, much of us using excessive force, false reporting, smuggling, sexual abuse, you don't get to hide behind arbitration and keep your job, which is what exactly happened. It puts the power to discipline in the hands of the commissioner, not into the arbitration system built to protect abusers. My other bill, 7014, says the cameras stay on and they should cover every corner of a facility. The footage gets safe, and when families, lawyers, or investigators ask for it, they will get it. These are basic things with real consequences and create real transparency, which is part of the package of goals. We work with advocates, with attorneys, with people directly impacted. These bills weren't written in isolation. They were written to respond to a crisis. And let's be honest, this crisis didn't start with Robert Brooks, and it won't end without serious reform. We have seen the numbers, we have seen the lawsuits, we have seen the videos. We have what we haven't seen is accountability. That's what these bills are. A demand for accountability that can't be ignored. I am proud to carry them, but I'm also here to say we cannot leave Albany without passing them. Robert Brooks' family is watching, so are hundreds of others. Let's not wait for the next name. Let's act now. I want to thank my chair, Nicole, for the leadership that she has taken in these issues and how we come in here together because, her leadership in the caucus. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Clear, and then we'll have Assembly Member Meeks.
Good morning. I want to thank Chair Salazar, Chair Salages, Chair in the Assembly for all their work on this issue. I'm going to really be brief, for real. They say, don't. They say a picture says 1,000 words. The words have already been spoken because we all saw it. We saw one of the most brutal beatings and murders of a human being. Had that been done to an animal, more compassion and action would have happened. But this is a Black man, and this has been happening to Black and brown people for decades. Some walked out of the institution with their lives, but their minds and their spirits broken. Many died. This is the one that we saw, but so many others have happened. When Robert Brooks was being murdered, his very last fibers of agency were taken away. Therefore, it's incumbent on us to take action and to take action now. He was powerless. He couldn't do anything for himself. He could not fend for himself against 14 people. He could not fend for himself handcuffed. He was a threat to no one. This was cowardice at its worst. The agenda has been narrowed down. I'm proud to have a bill on it that will prohibit interference with the provision of medical assistance to incarcerated individuals. And this weight falls on a lot of people who are sworn to heal people. It falls on everyone who stood and said nothing and everyone who stood and did nothing. We must pass these bills immediately, and we must pass the very bill until we create a system that is rehabilitative and humane, not torturous and cruel. Robert Brooks was killed 178 days ago. Enough with the waiting and enough with the excuses.
Thank you.
Good morning. I am Assemblyman Demond Meeks, representing the 137th Assembly District of Rochester, New York, also home of the Brooks and the Ricks family, home of Robert Brooks. Great man by the name of Martin Luther King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." I believe that at that time he used the word, the sex, gender, man, but I would interchange that with individual. And I'm speaking as it relates to the leadership of this state. When you look at the fight of social justice, of challenges when we're fighting and advocating on behalf of the very diverse state that we serve, it's something about the diversity of those who stand here. You see it. When you look at agendas that's about oppressing people, you don't see this level of diversity. But when you're talking about an agenda that's about the liberation of the people, you see this. It's interesting because we have talks and conversations amongst ourselves, and sometimes you see the level of frustration with your colleagues. Some will say that they subscribe as peopleticians and not politicians. One, such as myself, would say that I subscribe as servant leader versus politician. But the reality of it is the title is politician. We are all politicians. We hold political seats. And we are politicians that are in the same seats, in the same institution that historically upheld slavery. The same institution that brought about the Rockefeller drug laws. The same institution that have found multiple ways to oppress Black and brown bodies across the state of New York. However, in our roles, we have a responsibility, and we are committed to the liberation of those in which we serve. And we're going to continue to fight this fight. We often hear the name of Robert Brooks, Messiah Natwi. However, we had the Commissioner of Docks give a testimony that thus far this year, well, up until the month of May, we've seen 46 deaths in the New York State prisons. Brothers and sisters, we have an epidemic on our hands in the New York State prison system. 46 deaths. Now we're told, well, we don't know exactly what these deaths stem from because we haven't received a toxicology report, or we haven't received a report just yet stating how they died. 46 deaths. The New York State prison houses about 33,000, close to 33,000 incarcerated individuals. Could you imagine if the neighborhoods in which we lived in, per every 33,000, 46 dead? We would probably lock ourselves in a house and hide until we know what exactly is going on. We're committed to this legislation, this series of legislation as it relates to the Robert Brooks agenda. But this is a people agenda. This is a New York State agenda. We must stand tall and fight and assure that this current system is overturned to the betterment of not just incarcerated individuals, but it has remnants all across the state, in our households, in our communities, in our families, in an effort to restore New York by restoring families. Thank you.
Next, we're gonna have Jessica Gonzalez Rojas, and then Assemblywoman Member Jackson, and then Senator Fernandez. Thank you. Oh, okay, so Senator Fernandez.
Apologies, just conference is starting, but with everything that we went through this year already, from the strike to Robert Brooks's death, Messiah's death, and the many deaths that we still don't know about and what happened, the time cannot be more right, more overdue to get legislation done to reform the wrongs that are happening in our prison system. People do crimes, they do time, but sometimes that time does not mean a death sentence. When you go to prison, that doesn't mean you're supposed to die there. So we need to change what's happening, and we should have done it earlier this year and last year. And if the time isn't right now, when is the time? So I firmly stand with this legislation that we put forward. These are practical, smart, needed changes to make sure that people don't die and that our prison system is the rehabilitative system that it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Senator Liu?
This legislation clearly is needed, and we need to pass it right away. It's been too long since Robert Brooks was tortured and killed in a state facility. We do know, we've seen the videos, but we also know that other cases have happened. They've been happening for a long time, and they continue to happen. And we have to stop this in our prisons. And I think Senator Fernandez said it so well, that if you're sentenced to prison, it doesn't mean that you're sentenced to death. And it's a basic, fundamental concept, basic, fundamental American concept from our earliest days, that we do not accept cruel and unusual punishment. That is what this package of legislation seeks to address. We need to fix this, and we need to fix this now. Thank you.
I'm Assemblymember Jessica Gonzalez Rojas. I'm here to stand with my colleagues, and I thank our leader, Chairwoman Szilagyi, in gathering us, and all my colleagues who have stand firm to demand justice. And I want to call this what it is. The death of Robert Brooks and Messiah Natwa is state-sanctioned violence, and of the 46 other individuals who have perished in our prison system. We must make change. There's urgency now. Anyone who is in the system is paying their debt to society. But death has no place in our prison system. I'm proud to have a bill that ensures accountability by the Department of Health, but the whole package must be taken up because it addresses the full systemic issues that we are seeing. And again, I want to highlight what was shared in the beginning, the core priorities that are driving this effort: justice, rehabilitation, safety, and accountability. That is critical. We must hold the system accountable. Not one more death under our watch. Not one more death. Thank you for the leadership. Let's get it done this year. Thank you.
Next is Assemblymember Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the chairwoman and the task force. This was a process that was well thought out. It had input from advocates, from the community, from impacted individuals, from our colleagues to really think through how do we tackle preventing it, and how do we tackle holding people accountable when it does happen. And we can't leave Albany without some sort of change. How many more Robert Brookses do there have to be for us to truly change the way in which our prison system works? There needs to be accountability, there needs to be prevention, and these pieces of legislation are going to work to do just that. I have several of them, and I'm only going to raise two to make sure that I know there's a lot of people that are going to speak. One of them makes sure that when it does happen, that our Attorney General can get the video within 72 hours, unedited, no questions asked. It took entirely too long for the district attorney and the folks that needed to see the video in Mr. Brooks's case to actually get it. The second piece of legislation will make sure that when it does happen and the person is abused, the person is hurt, or the family is going to sue on behalf of the person, that the statute of limitations is told until the person comes out and they can get an attorney, they can understand what has happened to them, and they can actually ensure that they get the justice that they deserve. Because imagine someone being abused in prison and having to figure out a 90-day notice to the state or the city, having to figure out how to get an attorney, and having to figure out how to move forward while they're still in prison. So we want to make sure that we are protecting their rights. And along with all the other pieces of legislation that we have here today, we're going to make sure that the Robert Brookses, because there's way too many, there's an actual list. Think about the fact that so many people have died in prison. We have an actual list of people. That we don't have that anymore. That we're holding people accountable. Because if you go into the prison system, it is not a death sentence. It should not be a death sentence. So I just want to say thank you, and I look forward to passing these pieces of legislation. I have to say that is the most important news that should be coming out today.
And before I recognize Assemblymember Chattel Waterman, I want to recognize two non-caucus members who are here. We have Harvey Epstein, as well as Anna Kellis, Assembly members who stand in solidarity with us and want to see change. Somebody?
Thank you so much. I'm Assemblymember Monique Chandler Wardman, represented from Brooklyn, District 58, covering East Flatbush, parts of Canarsie, Brownsville, and Crown Heights. I appreciate the leadership of our Chair Solanges and my fellow Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian Caucus members, colleagues today, as we are highlighting four core priorities driving this effort: justice, as you heard, rehabilitation, safety, and accountability. As we work to fix New York's corrections system, prioritizing people first, not just in a hashtag, not just in a t-shirt, but in the money with the people's budget, in person-centered legislation like this package, people matter in prisons and on the streets of our communities. This is a release of the collaborative vision of our fellow caucus members and a message that the legislators cannot end session without taking meaningful action. We stand united as a caucus engaged with both legislative leaders who have been responsive to advance this critical package of bills. We want to ensure that when you take the oath to serve and protect, you are not abusing your power. If someone does the crime, we understand that they do the time. However, they are still someone's loved one. As they need to be held accountable, our law enforcement must be accountable as well. Any form of prison abuse is a direct violation of human rights and the physical and emotional harm that the late Robert Brooks and so many others were subjected to, in addition to which many must succumb to on a daily basis by those who are entrusted to protect them, even on the streets in our communities. It's unconscionable. All law enforcement is not bad. That's not what we are here saying today. When someone commits a crime, whether a civilian or those who took an oath to serve, all the individuals involved in a heinous action must be held accountable. Myself and Senator Sanders introduced a bill called Carriel's Law. Carriel was a Buffalo police officer that intervened when her partner was using excessive force and she was fired for this action. The legislation aims to enforce a duty for law enforcement to intervene when they witness another officer using physical force that is clearly excessive or beyond what is objectively reasonable under the circumstances. Carriel's law represents a crucial step in ensuring that accountability and integrity of our law enforcement. The presence of an officer willing to intervene provides reassurance to the public that the police and law enforcement are committed to upholding justice and human rights. In situations where excessive force is used, immediate intervention can prevent harm and de-escalation potentially dangerous situations. Moreover, the law includes protection for officers who report incidents of excessive force, ensuring they can do so without fear of retaliation. Supporting this legislation is a step towards fostering greater trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. So this is not just on the streets, this is not just as police officers, it's correctional officers, there's anyone who takes the oath, peace officers, to serve. So we want to make sure there's accountability and transparency, which are vital for the effectiveness of legitimacy of our law enforcement. Let's continue to put people first. Thank you, and let's get this package passed. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Assemblymember Taylor, Torres, and then Anderson.
Good morning. The last time I checked, New York State does not have the death penalty. We do not have that. It doesn't exist in the state of New York. Then someone help me understand, how do we have 46 individuals that have died this year in the correctional facilities? And I would lend this. This is a combination of folks that are standing here, has decades of experiences and witnessing folks that have died at the hands of those that were designed to protect them. Whether it was in Brooklyn and a 10-year-old kid was shot. I'm not anti anything but violence. And as a clergy, I have to speak those things out. So what you're experiencing here is accumulation of all of those things and what we've experienced over the years in the state of New York. And so the question is, for Mr. Brooks, was his living in vain? And I would say today, no. He's become the face, the martyr of what has happened behind the walls of people that we've been invested to protect and serve. Example, if we witness what happened on the streets in any place in America, there would be a manhunt to go and find those individuals to make sure they are brought to justice. And what happened here? People sat on their hands, and I heard someone say earlier, if it were an animal, that animal would have been given more rights. There's an indignation that you are witnessing and experiencing of what has happened and what continues to happen. So I want to applaud the leader the chair of corrections, member Solange right here, and all of those that have worked and labored to bring this piece to this space. And kid yourselves not. If this were any other nationality, this wouldn't be a conversation. It would be action so swift. And these individuals have been allowed to get away with that. And we pay for that, the taxpayers. Now we're held to a higher accountability, and rightly so. To whom much is given, much is required. And we want the same adoration and respect given to them. And we want people to move with precision and execution to alleviate, so the next person that thinks he or she can get away with that won't. I can only imagine a dying man looking at a medical assistant and get no help. No help. But Mr. Brooks, your living is not and will not be in vain. And I want to remind our colleagues, to whom much is given, much is required. Your living is not in vain, and you're here for such a season as now. Fight the good fight.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emerita Torres, proud to represent the 85th District in the South Bronx. I'm proud to support this package of bills in response to the tragic murder of Robert Brooks in our prison system, our incredibly flawed and broken prison system. This package is about transparency, it's about accountability, it's about safety. For far too long, incarcerated individuals have not exercised or had an opportunity to have their rights recognized. They have rights, they have dignity, they deserve respect in the prison system. A sentence in prison does not mean a death sentence. It does not mean internal punishment. In my district is also home to Rikers Island. I hear from far too many families and individuals that languish in prison for 20, 30, 40 years, doing good behavior, participating in programs, doing the right thing, and they still languish, and many of them still die. It is not fair. So we have to pass this package in Albany this session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Chair Solange as well as the Chair of the Corrections Committee in the Assembly for being here today, but also unveiling this package that we may be able to recognize the harm that's been done to the 46 people, but specifically Robert Brooks, who was murdered in cold blood on camera for all of us to see. The one word that I think is important and pertinent in this space today is accountability. We have to focus on making sure that the correction officers who are in these four walls with our incarcerated individuals are accountable. We've had a strike where correction officers went rogue, and there was little to no accountability in this unauthorized strike. It's a false sense of security that we have in our correctional facilities if individuals who are supposed to keep those who are there safe are not accountable to the oath that they swore to. That's important, and that ain't right. But today's package represents accountability when we look at Carrio's Law, when we look at all of the bills that are in this package that ensures that officers who are there in the facilities are held to account. But I usually don't bring remarks to these, but I brought a letter that I received from an incarcerated individual after visiting Coxsackie Correctional Facility with some of my colleagues. And one of the things that this letter is conveying is that the institutions that are in the prison facilities are falling apart due to the corrections officer strike. Whether it's the library still being closed or the programming not happening, these are tools that are in these facilities to ensure that we turn down the numbers of recidivism when these individuals return home, but also they build a sense of purpose. And so when we're thinking about this Robert Brooks package, we want to ensure that he didn't die in vain, that his murder means that we can correct the flaws in this correctional facility and this correctional agency. When we're talking about this package of legislation, and I commend all of my colleagues who have a bill here in this package. It represents hope, and it represents an opportunity for us to ensure that, just like I said, that Robert Brooks' name doesn't fall in vain, and that we could hope for a better carceral system that doesn't sentence 46 plus people to death. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. I also like to recognize Just Rob. Thank you for being here and standing in solidarity with us. We have two more speakers, and that's it. We have next Assemblymember Wetburn, and then ending with Assemblymember Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I chaired the Correction Committee in the Assembly for 6 years. I no longer chair the committee. Chairman Delan chairs the committee. But I always said when I spoke that the name of the committee is correction and not punishment. And what happened to Robert Brooks and to Mr. Messiah and others is unbelievable. It's hard. You can't even imagine describing it. We cannot leave here in Albany without doing something on their behalf, in their memory, and significant criminal justice reform. I sponsor a number of the bills. We really have to have better oversight of the correction system. We have to give people hope incarcerated. We have to give them an opportunity to know that they will be coming out, to know that they have a chance at a second chance. Nobody is being incarcerated forever. They need to have an opportunity for parole. They need to, they already have rehabilitated themselves. The individual that comes before the parole board is not the same individual that committed the crime. And they should have an opportunity to show that they've changed. And it's so significant, so important that we do something this session before we leave in the next 2 weeks. So I support the entire package, and hopefully we'll get as much done as we can. Thank you.
I guess at this point, everything has already been said. It's just not everyone has said it. We know that this is a critical time in the state of New York. This is a time of reckoning for us. We are watching the perceived lawful become unlawful. There is open season on our criminal justice system. We are watching as untruths are utilized to distort the humane practices that we are trying to give to a system that is ordered to rehabilitate individuals who, quite frankly, never received a shot in the first place. We know that we are watching underfunded schools and underfunded education throughout the state of New York in Black and brown communities. We are watching as the underfunded education be utilized to support the mass incarceration of these very same individuals. And this is an opportunity to right these wrongs. Yes, it's on behalf of Robert Brooks and Messiah, two individuals who, quite frankly, recently lost their lives to a system that was supposed to be there to protect them. Unfortunately, for so many, the brutal attack against Robert Brooks was in plain view for each and every one of us to see. And I am sure that it incited in you the level of urgency that something needs to be done about this now that it did in so many of us, which is why I support our chair and the chairs of the respective committees within our houses to be able to support a package of bills to address these very same issues. One of those such bills is the Second Look Act, which we know does not require anyone to get out of jail for free. However, we were watching in the 90s and in the 80s
as these long, excessive sentences were given out to individuals who, quite frankly, when they are in community, they are thriving and they are supporting, and they are the required and credible messengers to prevent a lot of crime from happening in the first place. We all know, we've heard a lot of euphemisms, that an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. And if we get these individuals, these OGs, to be out to talk to these YNs, to be able to let them know what exactly is the price that you have to pay for the actions that you're taking in community, maybe they will make the right choice. So it's time to bring accountability, justice, safety, and rehabilitation to our prison system. And it is time for the current session that we are watching happen end. Do not let the deaths of Robert Brooks, nor Messiah, nor so many countless others before them be in vain. Thank you. I am Assemblymember Latrice Walker.
Thank you, Assemblymember. So that is the end of the press conference.